Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. As European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen arrived in Kyiv on Wednesday to unveil a deeper EU-Ukraine defense partnership, Russia launched another major missile and drone attack on Odesa, killing civilians and once again targeting the port infrastructure that underpins Ukraine's wartime economy. Against the backdrop of escalating attacks and an increasingly integrated European defense strategy, Brussels is moving from supplying weapons to helping build them together. Joining us now to discuss the latest is Urszula Gacek, former Polish ambassador to the Council of Europe. Good to have you in the studio. Welcome.
Good to be here.
I want to begin with Ukraine directly. I mean, as I mentioned now, the head of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, arriving there for some interesting talks. But also, we have these latest strikes again by Russia, several days now in Odesa. Is that coincidence? Is it a signal to the Europeans?
I don't think it is. I mean, it's pretty much business as usual as far as the Russians are concerned. But it's interesting that you commented that this is focused on a vital area for Ukraine's defence sector. But in fact, when you look at how their defence sector has developed over the past 4 years, it is actually very decentralised and very much dispersed. And now probably hundreds, if not maybe possibly 500 companies, state-owned but also private enterprises, are involved primarily in producing from home, from components also made in Ukraine, drones that have amazing capabilities. So in fact, if you want to knock out strategic production sites in Ukraine, it's becoming increasingly difficult because they are so widely dispersed and so decentralized.
Yeah, and I think also that's something we do need to make clear on, is that how much Ukraine has come in terms of not just being a recipient, but also, as you said, being a supplier. I mean, one of the main reasons Ursula von der Leyen is in Kyiv is to have these kind of discussions. There'll be apparently a new defense partnership. More on that. I want to ask you in terms of what do you make of that? We have some details of that proposed financial package, looking at a mix of money and defense loans, etc. But, I mean, do you see anything, let's say, new out of it? Where do you see the greatest potential? What does the whole deal already mean to observers of Ukraine?
I think it's shifted from a donor-recipient relationship to a much closer strategic partnership. And you mentioned the loan, and I'm sure we'll discuss that. But in tandem, there are also projects that are maybe less well known, like scaling up defence, which is actually now creating the conditions where companies from the European Union can actually take an equity stake in these hundreds of Ukrainian producers. So it's not just this package. There are many, many aspects to a whole defence strategic programme which is being implemented jointly with our Ukrainian partners.
I mean, money is one thing, and it is slowly churning. But I also always ask experts in terms of how quickly does that translate into production facilities, into actual drones, into weapon systems. There are often pledges and the loans and everything but let's look at the timing of this. When will actually this make a difference on the battlefield?
I think it will make an impact in terms of scale. Ukraine is set probably to produce 8 to 10 million drones this year. These drones are very low cost, maybe 300 to 1,000 euro. They have deep strike capacity. They can cause an awful lot of damage. And so the president of Ukraine said that should he receive more funding, he could probably scale this up to 20 million units per year. But even at 10 million, Ukraine exceeds all of NATO's capacity in terms of drone production already.
And also in terms of drone production, we've also seen more interest, more deals and agreements also with European partners. I mean, how much of, let's make sense of the European component, the European Union component. Where does that lead? And is the European Union more of the, let's say, key partner here? Will the defense contractors from, let's say, Germany, from Poland, from France, be at a certain level? I mean, where do we coordinate all this? I mean, it's great on paper, but how does it look like in reality?
We have a situation where Ukraine has incredible technical knowledge now. They have scaled up from from a situation where at the beginning of the war they were buying 90% of their components. Now they're producing virtually everything that they need in country. So they are a partner who are going to bring know-how. They have, necessity is the mother of invention, and nothing has accelerated the pace of that technology as warfare and the demands of the modern battlefield. So Ukraine can very quickly test systems, things that have taken years to develop in Europe and the United States, they have done in a matter of months. What the European partners will bring is money, they will bring markets, they will bring possibly greater production capacity. When you look at maybe these very small dispersed companies, 500 or so, you can imagine how that could be scaled up, bringing that technology to established companies, not just in the European Union, but in the European Economic Area, and interestingly, also in the United Kingdom, who have joined this project as well.
And also, I mean, if we're looking at the kind of specific partners here, and we've said already, and we know that the Germans are spending much more on defense. We've seen also, of course, the European Union on the rearmament, etc., loans, SAFE, for instance, these defense loans from Europe. But are there, let's say, certain countries that are, let's say, more well-placed to be those premier partners? Or will we see a fair share of where these integrated production facilities are? Will it be that one country gets the lion's share? Will we see, for instance, Germany benefiting more, or will it be equitably distributed, this whole network of production?
I think, I mean, there'll be no steering of where this money is spent. The market will determine where the capacity is. And so actually Poland is well placed because Poland's drone technology and capacity is also exemplary, I think, in the European Union. Also remember that that money can be spent in Ukraine itself. So it's going to boost their domestic production even more. I don't think it's going to be a question of who's going to benefit most. Definitely, though, it will be Europe that benefits. This will not be money that will be spent in the United States. And if the United States, and especially President Trump, have been stressing how important it is for Europe to step up, to spend the money, but also to develop their own capacity, this is exactly what we're doing.
Another thing that came out also in the last 2 days was the coalition of the willing. They were meeting in Paris. This anti-ballistic missile shield, this alliance, and now 9 countries plus Ukraine, still waiting on some of those details. I mean, we've heard about missile defense plans before, certain European Sky Shield initiatives, etc. Is this now different? Will this be now scaled faster? Are the means there? Will this European money help with this in any way?
There are so many projects running in tandem, and the question is, I'm not so familiar with how that project is going to work. One thing is clear, Poland hasn't joined this at the moment because our defence systems, air defence systems, are very closely aligned with American Patriot systems. It doesn't mean that the road is closed for Poland. But I think also one of the things that will be developed is defence against drones. This requires a different kind of strategy to knocking down ballistic missiles. So I think this project will be running, and there are many, many aspects to this whole strategy, this whole package.
And also in terms of, we're now looking at this announcement, Ursula von der Leyen there, we also talk about integration, right? And we've also, at the same time, we're talking about accession for Ukraine, which more chapters being open. There are many of them still ahead. But how much is that linked in any way, if at all, this more continued defense cooperation? Does that strengthen in any way the accession processes? Are they linked in any way as separate paths?
Of course they do, because with this will come European standards, for example, on procurement, anti-corruption measures. So this is something that goes way beyond just securing defense. It creates partnerships, it creates good relations with European countries, but it also starts introducing standards in ethics, in business practices that Ukraine is going to have to take on board as it opens subsequent chapters in its accession process.
One reason for all this, I think the primary reason, is an aggressive Russia waging an illegal war. In terms of now, we constantly hear threats from the Kremlin, if it's coalition of the willing, etc. What do you think Moscow's response will be to this? Will they see this more as deterrence? Will they come out with something else? Will this make, for instance, integrated production facilities more targets, potentially? That might be the fear for some. How will Moscow react to all this?
Moscow is on its own trajectory, and I really have no idea what the strategy is. I think many of Putin's advisors, apart from his closest circle, are not quite sure where they're going with this. This will not provoke anything additional, in my opinion, from Russia. And even if it does, I think we are way past that moment when we are looking over our shoulder about what Moscow thinks. We did this at the beginning of the war. We didn't want to antagonize Russia. See where we are today. So the European Union, with its European partners, should go full force ahead on this. And how Russia will react, I think they're going to be on the back foot when something like this really kicks into gear.
And also just one thing, because I mean, we talk about European unity, and that is there to a large extent. But at the same time, if we have a recent statement, also a coalition of the willing, just yesterday, I believe it was, the new president of Bulgaria, rather Prime Minister, Mr. Radev, who very much, I'm quoting here, we're not part of a coalition that insists on continued financial and military assistance to Ukraine. I mean, given probably the contribution that Bulgaria has, it's probably smaller than other nations, but when we have something like that, a European leader saying something like this, stepping away where most things are coming together, how do we read into this?
I think it's very important to put a clear message out, including through this channel, that this is not something where the European Union, the member states, the citizens of the European Union are giving handouts to Ukraine. This is something which actually benefits us. It benefits us strategically in terms of increasing our defence capacity, but it also creates incredible opportunities for job creation, for advancement. Please remember, this war one day will be over, and that technology, many of it has dual applications, will remain. It creates a strong base for Ukrainians' future development. And I think to the Eurosceptical, anti-Ukrainian lobby, I think they need to hear more about the benefits that Bulgaria and some of Poland's right-wing politicians could also listen to these arguments, that there are actually concrete benefits, even if they find it difficult to grasp some of these more elusive strategic aims. This actually means jobs in Poland, jobs in Bulgaria, if they join into this coalition and fully contribute to this system.
Yeah, and as you said, more now on integration, on really dual use, but also benefiting really both sides in terms of production.
Exactly. As I said, this is no longer a donor-recipient. This is a true strategic partnership which will blossom into not just projects in the military sector, but I think it will bring Ukraine that much closer to European integration in its industrial and business cooperation with the Union throughout.
And we'll know that that's being signed, that financial pact will be signed today on Wednesday, and we'll, of course, cover it as it develops there in Kyiv. Thank you so much, Urszula Gacek, for coming in, speaking with us.
It was a pleasure.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.